the day is, do you guys want Pochettino if Conte was to leave at the end of the season? I know you guys have a lot to say on this topic, so we'll start with you, Josh. Do you want him back?
I feel like this is 8 Mile when I'm going first. Do you know what I mean? Danny Kiriakou.
You only get one shot, one opportunity.
It's complicated. I want Conte to stay, definitely. But also, I want a manager that not like, who's really, really that proud of Spurs unless you're a Spurs fan. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not under any illusions that like all these great managers are going to come.
Tuchel's a Spurs fan.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so with Conte, I just feel like he's just getting more and more distant. It's nothing to do with his illness or anything like that. I just feel like he never really felt like Spurs was quite his home. He talks about the club. He doesn't talk about us. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's quite clear, if I'm real with myself, that he is going at the end of the season. Yeah. So, yeah, if the question is if Conte leaves, so yes, I'd say yes, because there aren't that many managers that can come in and straight away have goodwill with the fans. That's a rarity in football. Everyone's got an opinion usually when it comes to managers. Whereas I think 90% of the fan base would be okay. At least they wouldn't be toxic towards him. Even the ones that don't want him, they're not going to be toxic towards him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Also, Potch did his best work when we had a proper sporting director. Not Steve Hitchin, who was whatever his title was or whatever, but like when we had Paul Mitchell that actually did scouting, set up scouting networks, had his famed black box, whatever it was called, I can't remember.
The black book,
and started. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
And started doing all those signings that were like really smart signings, like Wanyama, Alderweireld, Son. Like all these. Oh God, I'd love to have that again. By the way,
do you feel like we're getting back there under Paratici? Those kind of signings.
A little bit, yeah. So I do. Well, not a little bit. I think he's done really well. And the only reason I don't want to big him up too much is in case he's gone at the end of the season because he gets nicked or whatever. But yeah, I think Potch would work well under that structure. So but also it's like, would he want to come in and work under that? Because I don't know what the whole thing with him and Paul Mitchell was. I don't know if he had a problem with sporting directors and all that sort of stuff, but I'm all for it, as in like if Conte is definitely going, might as well give Potch another chance. But he has to submit to a sporting director way of working. I only want him if he's going to allow a sporting director to be there, whether it's Paratici or that Benfica guy or whatever. But Potch cannot have final say on signings. I think that's where we started to go wrong with Lo Celso and Ndombele and all that sort of stuff. The signings after Paul Mitchell left were a lot of them Potch signings. And I don't think he's got talent ID like that. But as a coach, I think he's brilliant. So yes, the answer is yes. I'll take him.
And a lot of Spurs fans, including myself, complained about keep chopping and changing the philosophies at Spurs, from going from Pochettino to Jose Mourinho to Nuno to Antonio Conte. Do you feel, if we go full circle and bring back Pochettino, that these players that Paratici has brought in can work in that system? Yes,
I do believe so. I know a lot of people are talking about, but he plays a back four, blah, blah, whatever. Poch's best season, we were talking about this in the WhatsApp group earlier. Poch's best season, correct me if I'm wrong, Sim, because, Sim remembers every single game, doesn't
he?
And every lineup.
I'm going to catch you, exactly. No stone unturned, Josh.
It was like a Southampton game or something. We went on a little bit of a bad run, 16-17. At the start, I think we had a few draws, did we? Or something like that?
Yeah.
And it was like a Southampton game in November or something where he switched to 3-4-3. And then that was what the system we used basically for the whole rest of the season. So that's how I remember it anyway. So I think he can play a back three. I think Porro and Udoji under Potch, the fullback whisperer. Are you absolutely mental? This geezer had Ben Davis and Kieran Trippier like when they first came in, looking as remember how interchangeable Danny Rose and Walker were. We weren't worried,
Yeah.
like we were still winning with them. It didn't matter. Ben Davis looked like a proper wing back under him as well. Like Potch would do fine with them. The midfield there, we've got a younger squad as well. I know we've still got Kane and Son. Those are the only question marks, to be honest. Everywhere behind the front line, and Kulu. So Kulu and behind, I think is fine. But Kane and Son, I don't know if they could work under Potts now, to be honest, because I don't think they'll press how he needs them to, or maybe we'd have to just replace one of them with someone that is really physical and stuff. But overall, I think the squad's in good shape for him. Get rid of Perisic, Longley, few of the older heads, and bring in some younger people, and he'd be fine.
When you're looking at Potch and Conte and the systems that they use and the squad that we have, under which manager do you think we need to spend more to get to where we want to be?
Is that to me or Danny?
Whoever wants to take it, we'll go with you. I want to get Danny's full take on it afterwards.
Yeah, sorry, it cut out a little bit, so I didn't get the whole thing. Say that again, sorry.
The whole question is, with the squad that we have, under Antonio Conte or Maurizio Pochettino, who do you think needs to spend more to get to where we want to be?
Conte, definitely. Because I think that Potch could bring in younger defenders that won't cost as much and make a good defense out of them. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that they'd be as great as Conte teams. They're very different managers or whatever, but Potch could work. He's proved that he can work with like players that don't cost as much. He's not really interested in just having proven winners. He does want to develop players, whereas Conte isn't that manager. Fair enough. So I'd say Potch. Yeah.
Do you know?
go
Can
on.
I just add on that? I think what the problem is, I think what fans forget to realize, right, is the fact that Potch did that at the beginning of his tenure when we didn't have pressure to achieve anything. It was only when he got us to a certain level where he couldn't do the same tactics he used when he started. Potch said it himself. You can go and see the interview. I don't know if you remember this, Tim, but when they asked him a question about why is it that we're not using as many youngsters through the academy anymore, and he said something on the lines of, well, when you get to this point where you're trying to achieve, you're trying to fight for top four, right? Before we could get players who are like a 6 or a 7, right, from the academy, and we could bring them in. But now we need them like an 8 or a 9, and that's the difference, right? Because the difference is when he got to the level he got to, that's when Paul Mitchell fell out with Daniel Levy, because he tried to get the player of the next level, because we were trying to get to the next level, because Potch didn't want to be at that level where the club were at and where they always want to be at, right? They never have that ambition to drive to the next stage. Paul Mitchell himself obviously said, my dream job turned into a nightmare, and he ended up he was on garden leave for over a year nearly, because he just fell out with Daniel Levy, because he just wasn't listening to the way he believed was the right thing to do for the club to progress the club to the next level, right? Yeah. So if you bring back someone like Potch in, right, for me personally, I don't want Potch to come back, because for me, I feel that his whole legacy as a Spurs fan favourite is going to be absolutely tarnished when he fails again. In my opinion, I think he will fail again, because what will happen is Potch going to come back and realise that, is Daniel Levy a changed man? Daniel Levy is not a changed man. He's never going to change. Let's be honest. He is never ever going to change his ways, right?
But
so
wait a sec, Danny. Wait a sec, Danny.
So go on.
But you say Daniel Levy's not a changed man, but is the club not in a much different space now to when Pochettino was last here? Because we went through transfer windows of not signing anyone. I mean, since Conte has been here, since Paratici has come here, we have spent a lot of money.
Yeah, we have spent money, but why have we not kept that same philosophy and style? It's the constant chopping and changing of directions of footballs, managers. There's no structure and there's no plan for what this club wants to achieve on the football pitch. We had Daniel Levy recently telling us in an interview, he's talking about the hotel that they're going to build. Well, why don't you tell us about the 5-year project on the football pitch, or about us winning an FA Cup, or about us trying to challenge for the title? Why can't you tell us Why can't you tell us in the next 10 years we want to challenge for the title or we want to win a title? Like Newcastle owners came straight in and they didn't give the fans an unrealistic aim. They said within 10 years we want to win a title. That's a long project. 10 years is a long time in football, right? But they've put out their initial ambition of what they want to do as a football club, right? And they said within 10 years, that is the aim. They want to try and win a title. And that's what they're going to try and build towards, right? We've never had an ownership. We've never had our owners come in and say, right, in 5 years' time, we want to try and compete to win a title, or if we want to try and win an FA Cup within the next 5 years, or something like that. Just try to say something like that. But the problem is the constant changing of these managers. You can see clearly that, for me anyway, someone like Pochettino coming back, I think, in the way I like to put it, is he's going to get his trousers pulled down once again, and he's going to get embarrassed. Because what will happen is, if Poch does come in, and you got to remember, right, when Poch came into this club, he had players there already. He had Jan Vertonghen there. He had Eriksen there. He had Harry Kane there. He had Hugo Lloris there. We've now got to replace a goalie. We've got, and we don't know if the goalie, for example, if we go and buy someone like Raya, for example, he could turn out to become Spursy and he somehow has that Spursy curse that our players have, that as soon as a player comes to Tottenham, all of a sudden their mentality just drops. Right?
You can say that about anyone, though, can't you?
Yeah,
you could, but we see that a lot with Spurs, with players when they come to Spurs, right? But what I'm saying is, you're going to then have to replace a goalkeeper. You're going to have the issue with Son and Kane getting older. You're going to have a problem with like one of the best finishers in the world in world football, in Harry Kane. You're going to have a problem with whether he's going to stay or not. Is he going to? Do you want to build? Are you going to try and build a project with Harry Kane in it, or are you going to try and? Does he want to stay at the club and things like that? So he's going to have a lot more stuff to deal with now, I think, than he did when he first came in. So it's a bigger rebuilding job than the first time around, right? Because the problem is,
do you really think so?
Yeah, I'll tell you why, Ben.
I don't agree with that.
Do you know, Danny? Just before, go on, you carry on.
I was going to say, our expectation is different to how it was when Potch first came in. Our expectation now, right, is the fact we've now got a stadium, right? This is 62,500 seat stadium, one of the best in the world. We've got one of the best training facilities in the world, right? We pay the highest season ticket prices in the world, right? So now the expectation is a lot higher for someone to deliver a higher quality of product on the football pitch, right? Which means a better team, right? Now, for him to do that with the philosophy that he has in his football, right? He's going to need. You got to remember, right? When Poch came in, we had the youngest team in the Premier League for nearly 4 years. 4 years.
He built that. Right? He built that. When he first came in, he had a massive clear out.
But what I'm saying, he had a massive clear out, Ben, but he had the core players still at the club. He then added a few more. He had a clear out of all the Deadwood players, right? Like the Bentalebs, like the Ryan Masons,
Kabul, Lennon,
all those types. Yeah, it was the Deadwood that weren't really playing anymore, right? That we still had. Jan Vertonghen was playing. We had Lloris playing. Eriksen was there, right? Then he added Dele Alli to Harry Kane. He added Son to Harry Kane with Paul Mitchell. And then he added Toby Alderweireld and Wanyama, and then it built the squad up. Dembele was already there. So we had the players, half the players were already there. So what I'm saying is, the way that the age of our squad now, with Harry Kane and Son at the age that they're at, they can't play the way that Poch wants to play his football, right? When, for example, when he first came into this club. So why I'm saying I think that it will cost more money for him, right, than it would Conte, because we've been building Conte's squad for the last 18 months and not fully, like, in terms of what everything he wants, but like you were saying, Ben, you're saying that we're seeing slowly they're building the squad. So what happens if you go and change to a Pochettino, who's got a complete different style of football and philosophy, right? And then what you've got to do, you've then got to bring in his players to fit his philosophy and his system and his style, right? And players like Harry Kane can't press from the front anymore, and players like that, you need young legs in you to play the way that he wants to play, right? And that's for me why look. I think I want Conte to stay, and I'm not saying I am enjoying this football. I don't like the football at all. I want Conte to stay for the bigger picture, of what the meaning of Conte is if he stays at this football club. That's the reason I want him to stay. Yeah, go on.
Danny, if Conte does leave, let's say because family reasons or whatever, who would be your number one choice then? If let's say just he resigned at the end of the season, who would be your number one choice?
My number one choice would probably be Gallardo, or you could say, is it Amaron at Sporting, or the other option is De Zerbi. Yeah, or De Zerbi. I think De Zerbi is you can see what he's done to that Brighton team in that short space of time. For me, I think Potter is a one-dimensional tactical manager, and he can't. It's like Graham Potter's taken his tactics to Chelsea, implanted it on a team with better players, and they're still struggling to score goals, right? Which is exactly what they did at Brighton. So for me, I never wanted Potter in the first place at Spurs. I don't think he's a good enough manager. But what I've seen of De Zerbi is he's elevated the style of football at Brighton, and you can see it. They're a lot more harder to beat. They're a better team. They're a better unit. And they've had a lot of players come out of that squad, and obviously their recruitment teams at Brighton is brilliant. But I think for me, someone like De Zerbi, I think he could. I'm saying of these managers because I don't believe. Well, I know in my opinion, right, that no manager that's coming into this club is going to get the full backing that they want, right? And that's why I don't want Potch back, because it's going to be the same way that he was managed before. And I think he'd be naive if he came back to Spurs to think that it's going to be different, unless there was a written contractual agreement to say you're going to have the choice of who you want to bring in, or whatever you want. You're going to have X amount of money to spend. Maybe Potch, but to be honest with you, I want to see something different right now. I'd rather see Potch come back when we have different owners.
Where can Potch actually go though? Like after PSG, like I think like you've got to remember, for him, we're a bit of a safety net as well, because he could, if another top club takes a chance on him and he fails again, like he's not going to have the same leeway that he would here at Spurs. Do you know what I mean? So I think, to be honest, it's a bit of a marriage of convenience. Like, do you know what I mean?
Of course it is, Josh.
Josh, do you not think the way things have gone at Spurs and PSG since he's left, do you not think it looked quite favourably on him, on Potch?
I don't know. I don't know, because it was bad for a year before he left, wasn't it, Spurs?
Yeah.
And if you can't go to PSG with that squad, and did he fail to win the league in the first season? He did.
Yeah,
didn't he?
He didn't come in. He didn't start the season though, did he? He came in halfway through or 3/4 of the way through or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough.
There are fans at the moment going to the training ground and protesting Gautier in the squad. They're 1-0 down after losing at home to Bayern Munich in the Champions League, so they could well be out of that. So the new guy Gautier could well be gone by the end of the season. So it's not easy to succeed there.
PSG is a poison chalice. Tuchel got sacked there because there was too much involvement from Leonardo. Poch didn't like the involvement from Leonardo. Poch leaves. Ultimately, Leonardo goes as well. And now Gautier's come into PSG, and Luis Campos is doing the exact same thing. I don't know if you saw from the last weekend, Luis Campos came down from upstairs and he walked past Gautier and started screaming at the players on the pitch. I mean, if that's not undermining someone, then I don't know what is.
Well, this is the point. Like, this is why I think, like, the way that for Potch to work, he needs to have someone like a Mitchell, someone who he trusts and he believes they have the same style of philosophy.
Yeah.
Potch doesn't have the philosophy of him, and Pochettino and Paratici do not have the same philosophy in the type of players they want, the style of football, and the philosophy of their football, right? They're two opposite ends of the spectrum. So if you bring in someone like Potch, do you honestly sit here and believe that someone like Paratici is going to be able to work with him in the right way? I don't.
Let me ask you this, Danny. Let me ask you this.
Because they've got different philosophies.
Which one? Name me over 2 or 3 players that Paratici has signed that won't work in a Poch system.
2 or 3 players.
Perisic is one. Who else?
I need to look at the list of players.
Longley.
Longley. Yeah, Longley.
Longley, who won't be here.
Apart from the stopgaps, which was Perisic and Longley, were stopgaps coming in, right? Apart from them, in my opinion, everyone would work in a Poch system.
I agree,
Yeah,
100%. Most of them have been young as well. Most of them have been very young, which is what Poch wants. And you were saying, Danny, about how we had certain players here when Poch came in, and you're right. You're completely right. We had Ericsson, we had Vertonghen, all that, Danny Rose, Kyle Walker, whatever. But the thing is, he elevated a lot of those players. Dembele was no one before I'm not saying he was no one, but he never reached those levels until Poch came.
Yeah.
Kyle Walker and Danny Rose both reached their top form when Poch came. And I think that there's a lot of players in the squad already that that would be, good for him. That most of them are young. Like most of the players that Paratici has signed are young, and they'll run for Poch, I think.
Yeah.
I think regular back if Poch
yes, that's also another question. Like, which
Ndombele.
players out on loan with the 250 million worth of talent out on loan?
I actually think Ndombele gets another crack if Poch comes back. I actually do.
He doesn't seem to.
And Lo Celso, I think they both do.
Under manager.
Yeah, but this is the whole problem, Sim. This is what I'm saying. The whole problem of bringing.
Will Ndombele be able to last the Poch pre-season?
Could you imagine the state, right? Having to watch Lo Celso and Ndombele try to come back in the squad. You can see Daniel Levy's face written all over it. Oh, look who we've got. We've got your players that you signed. You can now have your chance to manage them again.
Yeah,
it's like
10 years later.
4 or 5 years later, and now you can manage them. It's ridiculous. It's the mentality of this club. It's just a joke. And this is why I don't want Poch back. I'd rather have a new, fresh face, because, to be honest with you, we need someone, for me, we need someone who I feel is... look, when you go back to a manager, it's like going back to an ex, right? It never works out. Like 99% of the time, it's not going to work out.
We were actually going through managers. We were actually going through it yesterday. Who did we go to? Ancelotti is one. Zidane is one.
Did work out. Zidane, Heinz.
Tottenham managers. What about Tottenham managers we've gone back to?
Who have we gone back to?
How many have we gone back to?
Before. Didn't we go back to... what's his fucking name? I forgot his name now.
Who have we gone back to?
We've never gone back to someone.
Not in the Premier League era.
It wasn't in the Premier League.
We've only gone back to interim managers. We've never gone back to actual managers, have we?
I can't remember. I think there was one manager. I need to try and find out who it was, but it was before. But look, managers never do as good as their first stint. They never ever do.
Apart from Ancelotti, Zidane, Heinz.
Yeah, but look at them. They're like world-class managers. They're absolute world-class managers. So I mean, Zidane. He went back to Real Madrid, didn't he? Yeah, and won some trophies again.
And even Jose Mourinho. I know he probably wasn't as good second time round, but still won the league when he went back there.
Yeah, but what's in common of all those people who've won the leagues and won titles? What's the common denominator?
They're big clubs.
Yeah, they're big clubs. They act like big clubs, and they spend money and they buy top players.
Yeah,
that's the common denominator of all those teams. Tottenham, the way we run our club, is we try and find gems and hope that they turn into absolute players, and then we never sell them to make the money. That's the whole point. We actually brought them in the first place to do.
So if the club is run like that, isn't Poch the best man to bring back?
No, this is what I'm saying, because I don't think Poch will work this time round. I think it's going to be worse off this time. He's still got players there that he wanted to get rid of from that squad. There's still players there right now when he was saying we need a painful rebuild that are still at that club. Could you imagine Poch coming back and Daniel Levy's like, oh, you've got Ndombele and Lo Celso back. Do you want to work with them? Yeah, go on then. And then we've got another season.
I think he would. I think he would actually want to work with Ndombele, Lo Celso. It's Dyer and Davis and people like that. I don't think he want to.
They will never work. Them two.
He never got a chance with Ndombele, Lo Celso. He actually never got a chance with them.
He never got the chance with them, but they're just not good enough players in the Premier League. They're just not. Look at where they are now. Right now, they can't even. Ndombele can't even get into the Napoli team, and they're top of the league. Right, he's hardly playing for them.
He does.
He comes on, but what is that? Is that what we're going to use him for? We're going to have a £60 million player on £200,000 a week, and we're going to use him for 10 minutes in a game.
No,
it's better than paying his wages to be out on loan.
Yeah, but he doesn't really offer much, does he? He just stands around and he just absolutely gets destroyed in the midfield, and he might play that one killer pass every now and again, but. It doesn't do it consistently. He doesn't have the mentality of what you need to be a club that wants to compete. Look, Daniel Levy wants to. My opinion, all he wants to do is compete for that top 4 position. That's it. So, for me, I'd rather get someone like a De Zerbi, who's at the moment he's showing what he can do with very, very limited funds, right? And he's built a really good continuity within that Brighton club at the moment. for me, him or Gallardo, I think if you want someone on the cheap, you do things the cheap way. It's one of them two for me.
I think the
Poch,
name.
do you know why with Potch, right? I think the problem with Potch is that if Potch, let me give you a scenario. If Potch comes back to this club and gets us to a position where we're challenging for top four, and Potch goes, oh yeah, we need to now go and get the next level of players. You think Daniel Levy's going to let him do that?
I think Potch, if he comes back, like I said, I think everything's in place. Not everything's in place for him, but I think a lot is in place with him. With a lot of the players that we have brought in, I think he will get the chance to get rid of the players that he wants to get rid of, because he got the chance to get rid of the players he wanted to get rid of at the start when he first came in. Yeah. So yeah. I think Potch can work. I really do, and I think the players that we've brought in are literally perfect for him. I really do.
He has unfinished business, Danny.
Unfinished business.
Yeah, he has unfinished business with an owner who doesn't want to be competitive. And that's the one thing that Poch always kept saying, right, all the time is, we want to be a club that's challenging for Premier League, challenging for titles. Conte's saying the exact same thing, right? And then he comes out saying, but we need, basically saying the club need to decide what they want. Are we 5th, 4th, 7th, 6th, 5th?
Yeah.
And he's basically telling the fans the club need to decide what they want to be. Do they want to be a top 7 club? Do they want to be a top 6 club? Do they want to be a top 3 club? Poch had very, very high ambitions for Tottenham. That's why we got to the level we got to. We were just very unlucky in a lot of situations why we never won trophies. Also, adding to the fact that we didn't sign players for 2 windows. We had a really lack of depth in the squad. And it's kind of the same thing we're seeing right now. Again, it's still lack of depth. I know we've got a bit more depth now, but have we got the right players in for the manager and stuff like that? And for me, it's just, I just think someone like Conte, someone like Poch, with the ambitions that he has, right? I just don't think it matches the ambitions of the club. That's why he got sacked in the first place, because he was basically saying,
yeah, and we're regretting it ever since, aren't we? We're regretting it ever since.
Daniel Levy's regretting it. Of course he's regretting it, right? Because he's an idiot because he didn't back the one manager that he should have backed. I've always stated this, right? That if there's any manager that ever deserved any full backing, it was him. For what he did with the resources that he had, right? He overachieved massively at Spurs, right? Mm-hmm. And I think he was the one person that if you're going to give your funds to, you give it to like he said, painful rebuild. We were in that position where we were floating between 1 and 3rd. That's where we were. We were around that position. And he wanted to try and compete to win the title. And we never got the players to do it. And it will happen again. The same thing will happen again. I can't see him coming back unless Daniel Levy is serious about challenging for the Premier League. That's my opinion.
You say how well he did without the resources. I mean, he's going to have a lot more resources now than last time when he was here. We went through a year and a half without signing anyone.
Yeah, I get that, but are you happy to go through what we went through last time, where we're always the nearly boys? We're always the nearly boys.
But it's different. It's not like that. Football is not like just because it was just like that last time, it'll be the same this time. That's not how football works.
It will be the same. People need to understand it's going to always be the same under this ownership. Until the ownership have a plan of what they want to do, it's always going to be the same. It's always going to be the same. That's why I said I don't care whether I don't care which manager comes in my opinion. I want De Zerbi or Gallardo because I think they will work. They're managers who don't have expectations to go and win a title like someone like Potch does, right? They will do what the club wants them to do, right? That's what the club needs. They need a manager who's going to listen to them, who's going to accept players from the club and accept some of the players from the manager or the scouting department or whoever brings in the players, the recruiters. And that's what they need. Someone like Potch, he's too ambitious for what the club want to achieve, which I don't think they want to achieve anything on the pitch. That's just my opinion, and I just think
we may as well bring in Sean Dyche or someone like that. Then bring in Sam Allardyce. You know what I mean?
Boys, I've been saying Ryan Mason in. Yeah. I've been saying Ryan Mason in. Honestly, because
that's not what I want, Mason.
Because do you know why? Because it honestly really doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter what manager comes in, and I want to ask all of you boys this question, right? What is it that you want as a Spurs fan from Tottenham? What do you want to see Spurs do?
Win trophies.
Josh?
Win trophies. But one set. Look, I want to say...
Are we going to win trophies under Pochettino if he's not back like the way he was last time? He'll manage the way he was last time.
No, definitely
he won't be managed the way he was last time, though.
Why do you say that, Ben, though?
Because Conte hasn't been managed like that.
It's true.
But he has been managed like that.
No, he hasn't.
No, he hasn't.
No, he
He's been
hasn't.
restricted. Yes,
No,
he
no,
has.
no.
Danny, under Pochettino, we went 18 months without making one signing. We're spending 100 million minimum every transfer window at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're spending money, but again, we're not getting the right players in for the manager.
Okay, you can argue that, but
That's
it's still
where
not.
I
It's not
agree.
18 months without a signing, though, is it?
Yeah.
But forget that 18 months without signing. I'm talking about the whole policy and strategy of this football club, right? Where are we gonna follow a vision of what Pochettino wants, right? I told you before, he wants to win Premier Leagues and Champions League. That was what he kept spouting all the time for years. He kept saying he wants. Why do you think we always in the cup competitions he always took them lightly and not serious? Because
We didn't have a squad.
Yeah, we didn't have a squad. Exactly. Whose fault is that we didn't have a squad?
Levy.
Yeah, he had to play. He had to play with Winks and Sissoko for that.
And
whole
Onuma, he
season.
made Onuma, didn't
Yeah.
he? And
Oh,
This is what I'm saying. Onuma, bloody
Sissoko.
Onuma.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, but haven't we progressed as a football club since then? Look at the midfield options we have now. You know, Bentancur, Sarr, Skip, Højbjerg, Bissouma.
Bentancur under Potch. Bentancur and Højbjerg under Potch, because you know his high pressing. Honestly, I think that'd be amazing. Like,
I agree. Danny, can you not see that we're in a different space as a club now as we were when Potch was last here?
Of course, I'm not saying we're not, but I'm just saying it's the way of the structure and the plan of this football club, which is why I don't think any manager is ever going to succeed to do the one thing that I want is to see trophies. I want nothing more than to go down Tottenham High Road and celebrate an FA Cup win or a big trophy win. I want to see that in my lifetime, right? While I'm
Trophies
still
are not
fucking
guaranteed under any manager, are they? They're not
Of course,
guaranteed
but-
under any
but
manager.
Ben-
But Potch was the one that got us the closest out
yeah,
of
but the
everyone with
difference-
limited resources.
Of course, Ben, but what I'm saying is why I don't want to be the Nearly Boys again. I want to have a manager and an ownership that's
All right,
ambitious
so Ryan
to
Mason
say,
in then.
Yeah, Ryan Mason in. Yeah, Ryan Mason in.
Oh, so you don't want to be the Nearly Boys, but you're Mason in. That doesn't make sense.
Because what's the point of getting our hopes up to that point where we're going to just fail at the last minute again, right? Because we're not going to have we're going to be one or two players short of what we needed to do, or we're going to have an owner who just about backs the manager enough to satisfy him, and then when he really needs the full back in, he's not going to get it. Look, I don't believe Potch coming back here. I believe it's going to be the same way that it was. He might be able to rebuild the squad in his own image, but I don't think that he's going to succeed. I don't think he will.
this squad is in a lot better state than when Potch went into that original squad. Like, so
100%.
much better.
100%.
Well, we all know he's coming back anyway, so we all know he's going to come back in the summer. Conte's not staying.
Danny's going to get
personally,
back on the train if he comes back. You watch.
Personally, I wanted to see De Zerbi. I genuinely don't want him because I'm going to feel sorry for Poch when it all goes tits up.
Josh, any closing words?
No, just the fact that it's got dark, so I look like
I can tell.
it was fine before, but nothing really.
All right, I think we'll end it there, guys. But big up to both of you for coming on today. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Danny. Any closing words from you, Danny?
Let's just
Mason in. Mason in. The fans are the problem.
Mason
Give it to
in.
us.
let's just hope Levy fucks off within the next 5 years. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, you never know. We might have a new owner by the time Potch comes back.
I don't
Yeah,
think they're
it could be
interested
the
in selling the
summer.
club.
Never
No,
know.
I don't think so either. But we'll have to wait and see. But look, I just feel that whoever comes into this position, until the ownership mentality at the top changes, it won't change throughout the whole club, right? That's the problem. It's the mentality. This has always been the biggest issue, and the mentality stems from the top. It's the core of the club, right? If the owners don't have that ambition to say, I want to win a trophy, that's what I want to do this season, that is my goal, that is my target, then we're never going to win. It doesn't matter who the manager is. The only way we win a trophy is if we're lucky. So it doesn't matter who the manager is, to be honest with you. For me, anyway.
All right. I think we'll leave it there. Big up to you guys. We'll see you all next week for another panel show. But thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Show the guys some love in the comments as well. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always,
Big up,
Come on,
everyone.
you Spurs.